Welcome to my town! Keep the body cam on, Sheriff. Sheriff. That says Chief of Police.
Put your hands on the table. Both of you. Now. Sheriff Wade Harlan did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The silver badge on his chest did the shouting for him. Every fork in Ruthie's diner stopped halfway to someone's mouth. Coffee cooled in white mugs. A little boy in the corner booth froze with syrup on his fingers. Marcus Ellison sat by the window with his palms flat beside a plate of untouched eggs. Across from him, Isaiah Brooks slowly lifted his hand from his coffee cup. They were the only two black men in the diner that Sunday morning, and everyone suddenly seemed aware of it at the same time. Harlan stood over them in a tan uniform, thumbs hooked into his belt, hat brim low, mouth bent in a smile that had no warmth in it. Two deputies hovered behind him near the door, young, stiff, silent. The sheriff looked at Marcus, then at Isaiah, then at the people watching. He liked the audience. You boys lost. Isaiah swallowed. We are eating breakfast. I did not ask what you were doing. Harlan leaned closer. His voice sliced through the room. I asked if you were lost. A whisper moved across the booze like wind through dry leaves. Someone near the counter took out a phone, then hesitated, the screen glowing against their palm. Ruthie Mae Carter, the owner, stood behind the register with one hand pressed to her apron. She had known men like Wade Harlan long enough to understand the danger of correcting them in public. Marcus did not move. He was 48, broad-shouldered, dressed in a plain navy jacket, the kind of man most strangers would forget 5 minutes after passing him on the street. His hands were steady, but his eyes were not empty. They carried something old, something buried. On the seat beside him was a worn leather folder, dark brown, scuffed at the corners. A thin edge of cream paper showed from inside it, stamped with a Blue City seal. Harlan glanced at it and dismissed it. Identification, he said. Marcus looked up at him. Am I being detained, Sheriff? The room changed. Not loudly, just enough. Deputy Kayla Monroe, standing behind Harlan, lifted his eyes. He heard the sentence the way a mechanic hears an engine miss. Calm, precise, not frightened. Harlan's smile disappeared. You hear that? He said to the diner. Man comes into my town and starts lecturing me about procedure. Isaiah leaned forward, careful, protective. No one is lecturing you. We have not done anything wrong. Harlan turned on him so fast the coffee in Isaiah's cup trembled. You speak when I tell you to speak. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice low. Sheriff, if there is a complaint, state it. If there is no complaint, we would like to finish our meal. Harlan laughed once. Short, ugly, complaint? Fine. Suspicious behavior, loitering, disturbing customers. A woman at the counter looked down at her toast. A trucker near the jukebox shifted in his seat, but said nothing. The little boy's mother put a hand over his wrist, as if silence could protect him. Have you ever watched a room decide that keeping quiet was safer than telling the truth? Harlan reached down and grabbed Isaiah's wrist. Isaiah flinched, more for shock than pain. Stand up. Why? Isaiah asked. Because I said so. He asked you why. Marcus said. The sheriff's head snapped toward him. And now you are interfering. Ruthie Mae took one step from behind the counter. Wait, they are customers. They paid. The whole thing is on the receipt. She held up a small slip of paper with a shaking hand. For 1 second, it looked like common sense might enter the room. Harlan walked over, plucked the receipt from her fingers, and let it fall into a half-full glass of water on the counter. The ink began to bleed. Stay in your kitchen, Ruthie. The old woman's lips parted, but no words came. That was the microsecond Marcus would remember later. The moment help appeared, then drowned in a glass of water. Harlan came back to the booth and pulled out his cuffs. The metal clicked open. The sound was small, but it carried. Isaiah looked at Marcus. Marcus gave the slightest shake of his head. Do not fight. Do not give him what he wants. The first cuff closed around Isaiah's wrist. A woman gasped. A man near the pie case whispered, not again. Harlan twisted Isaiah's arm behind him and pushed him toward the aisle. Welcome to my town. Then he turned to Marcus. You too. Marcus rose slowly. He was taller than Harlan expected. Not aggressive. Not afraid. Just present. For the first time, the sheriff had to tilt his chin up. Caleb's body cam gave a soft electronic chirp. Harlan heard it and looked back. "Turn that thing off." Caleb hesitated. "Sheriff, department policy says during a detention, it stays on." The diner held its breath. Harlan stepped close to Caleb, his voice low enough to be private and loud enough to be a threat. "I said turn it off." Caleb's hand hovered near the camera. Marcus watched him. "Keep it on," Marcus said. 2 words. Quiet. Clean. They landed harder than a shout. Harlan spun back and shoved Marcus against the edge of the booth. Not hard enough to bruise in front of witnesses. Hard enough to humiliate. He cuffed him with a sharp final click. Marcus's leather folder slid from the seat and hit the floor. The cream paper slipped halfway out. The blue city seal flashed under the diner lights. Caleb saw it. So did the little boy under the corner table. Harlan did not. He grabbed Marcus by the arm and pulled him into the aisle. Phones were up now. Some recording. Some pretending not to. Isaiah's breathing was fast. But Marcus stayed calm, even as every eye in the diner turned him into a criminal before anyone had named a crime. Harlan marched them toward the door. The bell above it jingled brightly, cruelly, as if this were any other Sunday. Outside, the patrol car waited at the curb. Harlan pushed Isaiah toward the back seat first, then Marcus. Before Marcus ducked his head, he looked once through the diner window. Caleb was still inside, staring down at the folder on the floor. Ruthie Mae bent to pick it up, but Harlan's voice cracked from the doorway. "Leave it." She froze. Caleb did not. His eyes moved over the exposed paper, and whatever he read there made the color drain from his face. Then the sheriff slammed the car door between Marcus and the diner, and the whole room began to go silent for a different reason. The patrol car door slammed, but the sound did not stay outside. It followed Marcus Ellison into the back seat like a sentence. Through the glass, Ruthie's diner looked smaller now, its windows filled with faces that had been brave enough to stare and too afraid to speak. Inside, Deputy Caleb Monroe stood frozen over the fallen leather folder. The blue city seal on the exposed paper caught the morning light for one clean second before Sheriff Wade Harlan stepped between the window and the truth. Eyes forward, Harlan snapped. Marcus did not answer. His wrists were locked behind him. The cuffs pressed into old scars of grief no one in that diner could see. Isaiah Brooks sat beside him, breathing hard, jaw tight, trying not to show fear. Marcus turned his head, just enough to meet his brother's eyes. "Not yet, that looks sad." "Hold steady." A few hours earlier, the day had begun in silence. Marcus had woken before sunrise in a small roadside motel 6 miles outside Briar Falls. The room smelled of old carpet, weak coffee, and rain trapped in the curtains. His suit hung from the bathroom door in a plastic cover, still untouched. On the table beside the bed lay the same leather folder, a prepaid motel key card, and a photograph of a boy in a baseball jersey, smiling in his summer sunlight. Andre Lisson, 15 years old forever. Marcus had touched the corner of that photograph with 2 fingers, the way some men touch a prayer book. He had not cried. He had learned years ago that grief could move quietly and still weigh more than stone. Isaiah had knocked at 6:12 with 2 gas station coffees and a paper bag of biscuits. "You sleep?" he asked. Marcus looked at the untouched bed. Enough. Isaiah did not push. He knew the night before any badge ceremony was not easy for his brother. Not because Marcus loved power, because every uniform reminded him of the night Andre did everything right and still did not come home. In the motel mirror, Marcus had adjusted his plain navy jacket, then paused. The small velvet box stayed in the folder. The appointment packet stayed sealed. He had promised himself he would see Briar Falls first without a title, without a press release, without anyone standing straighter, because they knew who he was supposed to become. "I want breakfast where people actually talk," he had said. Isaiah gave a tired smile. "Then Ruthie's is the place. People talk there. They just lower their voices when Harlan walks in." That name had hung in the room longer than it should have. Sheriff Wade Harlan. 10 years of complaints. Traffic stops that became threats. Body cameras that failed at convenient times. Families who told stories in kitchens, but never on record. Marcus had listened to all of it during the drive into town, one hand on the wheel, the other near the folder, as if the paper inside could burn through leather. If you have ever been judged before anyone bothered to know your name, you already understand why Marcus did not shout in that diner. Sometimes dignity is the only thing they cannot take unless you hand it to them. Now, in the back of Harlan's patrol car, that dignity was being tested under a locked door and a watching town. Outside the diner, Ruthie made bend again toward the folder. Caleb reached it first. He picked it up carefully, not like trash, not like evidence yet, but like something that suddenly mattered. The little boy from the corner booth pointed at the paper and whispered something to his mother. Harlan saw the movement. His face hardened. He strode back inside, snatched the folder from Caleb's hand, and shoved it under his arm without reading. "No loose property from suspects," he said. "It all goes through me." Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it. The micro-hope died there under the sheriff's glare. Harlan returned to the patrol car and slid behind the wheel. The radio crackled. A dispatcher asked if he needed backup. Harlan looked at Marcus in the rearview mirror and smiled. "No backup. Just two outsiders who need to learn how things work around here." Marcus lowered his eyes to Harlan's body camera. The red light was still dark. Then he noticed Caleb in the side mirror, standing on the sidewalk, one hand near his own camera, thumb trembling over the button. The patrol car pulled away from the curb. Behind them, Ruthie's diner shrank into the rear window. In the front seat, the leather folder rested against Harlan's hip, its seal hidden, its secret unread. Then the sheriff's radio crackled again, and a calm female voice from dispatch said, "Sheriff, City Hall is asking why you have Marcus Ellison in custody." City Hall is asking why you have Marcus Ellison in custody. The dispatcher's voice came through the patrol car, speaker clean and calm, and for 1 second Sheriff Wade Harlan stopped smiling. Marcus saw it in the rearview mirror. A tiny break, a flicker of doubt. Then Harlan reached for the radio and crushed it in his fist like the question itself had offended him. "Tell City Hall I am handling a disturbance," he said. "Two men causing trouble at Ruthie's." Isaiah turned his head. "That is a lie." Harlan's eyes lifted to the mirror. "It is my report." Marcus stayed still. The cuffs bit deeper each time the car turned, but he kept his shoulders square. Outside the window, Briar Falls passed by in quiet pieces. A white church with fresh flowers on the steps. A barber shop with a faded sign. A school crossing where the yellow paint had almost disappeared. People looked at the patrol car, saw two black men in the back seat, and made the story simple before anyone gave them facts. A woman on the sidewalk pulled her little girl closer. An old man outside the pharmacy shook his head. A teenager raised his phone and started recording before the car even stopped at the red light. In towns like this, a badge could write the first draft of the truth. Harlan knew that. He had built a career on it. "You see them looking?" he said. "That is called reputation." Marcus looked out at the same faces. "No, Serif. That is called fear." The words landed hard enough for Harlan's jaw to tighten. Isaiah glanced at his brother, pride and worry fighting in his eyes. He knew that tone. Marcus used it when he was holding back more than anger. The patrol car rolled past Ruthie's again on the way to the county station. Through the diner window, the little boy from the corner booth was still standing near the fallen table, pointing toward the floor where the leather folder had been. Ruthie May stood beside him, one hand over her mouth. Deputy Kayla Monroe stood outside the diner now, staring at his own body cam as if it had suddenly become heavier than his badge. That was the first small hope. Someone had seen enough to question the story. Then Harlan killed it with one call. "Caleb," he barked into his shoulder radio, "bring that property to the station. Sealed. Do not open it. Do not discuss it. Do you understand me?" Static answered first. Then Caleb's voice came through, careful and low. "Understood, Sheriff." Harlan smiled again. "Good boy." Marcus looked down at his cuffed hands. On his left wrist, just above the metal, was the faint mark from an old hospital bracelet he had worn the night Andre died. No one in the car knew that. No one knew how many years he had spent walking into rooms where people looked at him and saw threat before grief, anger before discipline, color before command. He had learned not to beg for dignity. He carried it quietly, like the photograph in his wallet, like the sealed folder Harlan now treated as stolen property. The county station sat behind a row of flagpoles, brick and glass, clean on the outside and tired within. Fluorescent lights hummed over the front desk. A framed picture of Harlan shaking hands with the governor hung near the entrance. Under it, a sign read, "Integrity, Service, Law." The deputy at reception looked up as Marcus and Isaiah were marched inside. His eyes moved from their faces to the cuffs, then to Harlan. He did not ask a question. Harlan answered anyway. Two outsiders thought they owned the place. Isaiah said, "We ordered breakfast." A deputy at the copy machine laughed under his breath. Marcus looked at him once, and the laugh died. Not because Marcus threatened him, because Marcus saw him completely. Harlan shoved them toward the metal chairs beside booking. "Sit down." Marcus remained standing for half a second longer. His eyes moved across the room. Camera in the corner. Audio recorder above intake. Logbook open on the desk. Bodycam dock with 3 missing slots. Caleb had not arrived yet. The folder had not arrived yet. But the system was already leaving fingerprints. Seat, Harlan le Petit. Marcus sat. Isaiah sat beside him. The dispatcher, a middle-aged woman named Marlene, kept glancing from her screen to Marcus. Something on her monitor made her brow crease. Harlan noticed. "Problem?" Marlene swallowed. "City Hall called again." Harlan stepped closer. And she looked at Marcus, then back at the screen. They said no paperwork moves until someone verifies his full name. The room went quiet. Harlan leaned over her desk, voice cold. "Then type it exactly how I say it." He turned to Marcus. "Name." Marcus raised his eyes. Calm, tired, unbroken. "Marcus Ellison." Marlene typed it. The computer beeped once. Then again. Her face changed, and Harlan saw it before Marcus did. Marlene's face changed before the screen did. Her fingers froze above the keyboard, and the booking room seemed to hear the silence before anyone understood it. Sheriff Wade. Harlan leaned over her shoulder. "What is it?" Marlene swallowed. The system flagged the name. Harlan's mouth tightened. "Flag how?" She glanced at Marcus, then at Isaiah, then back at the monitor. "Restricted municipal file. City Hall access only." The words moved through the room like a cold draft. The deputy at the copy machine stopped laughing. Isaiah lifted his head. Marcus did not move. He sat with his cuffed hands behind him, shoulders straight, eyes calm enough to make the room uncomfortable. Harlan tapped the screen with one thick finger. "Override it." "I do not have clearance," Marlene said. "Then use mine." "Sheriff, this is a city file. County access will not open it." That was the first sign. Not a victory. Not freedom. Just a crack in the story Harlan was trying to write. Marcus looked at the intake desk, then at the wall camera, then at the paper log beside Marlene's elbow. His voice stayed quiet. "You are missing a detention time." Harlan turned slowly. "Excuse me?" Marcus nodded toward the logbook. "If you are booking us, the time of detention should match the patrol unit call-in. You also need the stated probable cause before the charge code. Otherwise, the record is contaminated before it is printed." No one spoke. Caleb Monroe had not entered yet, but 2 deputies near the back exchanged a look. Marlene's eyes dropped to the logbook. She saw the blank line. She saw the missing cause. She saw for the first time that the man in cuffs was reading their procedure better than the people wearing badges. Harlan laughed, but it came out thin. "Listen to him. 10 minutes at my station, and he thinks he runs intake." Marcus met his eyes. "No, I think records matter. Records say what I tell them to say. Then they're not records. They are cover stories." The room went still again. A printer clicked somewhere behind the desk. Isaiah looked at his brother with a flash of fear. He knew Marcus had just touched the sheriff's pride, and pride was the one thing Harlan guarded harder than law. Harlan stepped closer until his belt buckle was inches from Marcus's knees. "You have a smart mouth for a man wearing cuffs." Marcus looked down at the metal around his wrists, then back up. "Cuffs do not make a bad arrest legal." Marlene inhaled sharply. It was small, but Harlan heard it. He turned on her. "Print the paperwork." "The system will not accept the charge without a probable cause field," she said. "Then type suspicious conduct." "That is not a charge code." Her voice trembled, but she said it. Micro hope. One person in the room had chosen the record over the sheriff. Harlan killed it with a stare. Marlene, you want to keep that chair? Her hand moved back to the keyboard. The hope folded in on itself. At that moment, the front door opened. Caleb Monroe stepped inside, rain dots on his uniform, Marcus's leather folder held in both hands. He looked younger than he had in the diner. More frightened, more awake. Harlan crossed the room and snatched the folder from him. You open it. No, safe. Good. But the folder had been bent in the patrol car. The cream paper inside had shifted. A corner slid out under the fluorescent light. Blue seal. City letterhead. The words Briar Falls Police Department were visible for half a breath before Harlan shoved the paper back in. Marcus saw Harlan see it. So did Caleb. So did Marlene. Harlan's face did not go pale yet. It went harder, meaner. A man who had found a locked door and decided to break the wall around it. He held a folder up in front of Marcus. What is this? Marcus said nothing. Harlan smiled without warmth and tossed it onto the booking desk. Fine. If you know procedure so well, let's do this properly. He pointed toward the open hallway, where two more deputies had gathered to watch. Stand him up. Put him in front of the camera. I want his full statement recorded. Isaiah's eyes widened. Marcus! Harlan cut him off. No more diner audience. Now he performs for mine. Caleb reached for Marcus's arm, then stopped, as if touching him suddenly felt dangerous in a way he could not explain. The intake camera blinked red. The system beeped again. On Marlene's screen, beneath the locked file warning, a second line appeared, half covered by a gray access bar. Effective Monday, 8 a.m. Harlan had not seen it yet. Marcus had. The intake camera blinked red, and Sheriff Wade Harlan smiled as if the tiny light belonged to him. Marcus Ellison stood in front of it with his wrists still cuffed behind his back, the metal pulling his shoulders tight. Isaiah was kept 5 feet away, close enough to watch, too far to help. The booking room had become a small theater. Deputies lined the hallway. Marlene sat at her desk with her hands frozen above the keyboard. Caleb Monroe stood near the wall, body stiff, eyes flicking between the camera, the folder, and the gray access bar on the screen that still covered most of the second line. Effective Monday, 8 a.m. Harlan had not seen it. Marcus had. Harlan picked up a blank statement form and slapped it against Marcus's chest. Read it. Marcus looked down at the paper. I cannot read with my hands behind my back. Harlan leaned close, then listened carefully. He turned toward the camera, voice smooth now, official now, the voice of a man building a lie for people who were not in the room. Subject became hostile inside Ruthie's diner. Subject interfered with a lawful detention. Subject refused multiple verbal commands. Isaiah stepped forward. None of that happened. Harlan pointed at him without looking. One more word, and I add intimidation. He is telling the truth, Isaiah said. He is making noise, Harlan snapped. There is a difference. A deputy near the hallway gave a short laugh. Nobody else did. Marcus kept his eyes on the camera. Your statement is missing the initiating cause. Harlan lowered the paper. There he goes again. You did not state a call, a complaint, a victim, or a crime in progress. Marcus's voice was quiet, almost tired. A detention cannot become lawful just because you start recording after the cuffs are on. The room went silent. Caleb's jaw moved as if he had swallowed a word. Marlene looked at the logbook again. Harlan saw both reactions. His face hardened. You think big words save you. He took Marcus's leather folder from the desk and waved it once. You come into my county carrying sealed city paperwork like it makes you special. It does not. Marcus said nothing. Harlan opened the folder just enough for the cream paper to shift, then stopped himself, as if reading it would give the paper power. Instead, he slammed it closed. Property of a detainee. Locked evidence. Caleb said, Sheriff, it has a city seal. Maybe we should call City Hall and confirm custody protocol. That was the micro hope. One clean sentence. One deputy choosing procedure over fear. Harlan turned slowly. Are you giving me orders now? Caleb's face reddened. No, sir. Then stop auditioning for a conscience. The words hit Caleb harder than a slap would have. He lowered his eyes. Harlan tossed the folder to a deputy by the evidence cabinet. Lock it. Marcus watched the cabinet door open. Watched the folder go inside. Watched the key turn. The truth was still in the room, but farther away now, behind metal. Then Harlan reached for the computer mouse. Marlene moved quickly, almost without thinking. Sheriff, if you close that screen, the access flag may require supervisor authentication to reopen. Harlan stared at her. Are you a technician or a dispatcher? I'm saying the system already logged the restriction. Then log this. He clicked out the file. The warning vanished. The screen returned to the booking form. The room breathed again, but not with relief. With surrender. Harlan faced Marcus. Now you're going to give a statement. No. A sharp stillness fell. Harlan's smile came back, colder than before. No. Marcus lifted his chin. Not without counsel. Not while my brother is in cuffs. Not while your camera begins after the unlawful detention. A whisper moved through the hallway. Harlan stepped closer, close enough that his badge nearly touched Marcus's jacket. This is my station. Marcus looked at the badge, then at the dark body cam on Harlan's chest. Then it should worry you that the only camera working is not yours. Caleb's hand twitched near his own body cam. The red light was still on. Harlan noticed. Caleb. Hallway. Now. Caleb did not move fast enough. Harlan's voice dropped. Now. Caleb walked out, and the little red light disappeared around the corner. Isaiah was pulled the other direction, toward a holding bench behind glass. Marcus turned his head, but a deputy blocked his view. The room had split him from his brother, from the folder, from the one camera that had not lied yet. Harlan picked up the statement form again and pressed it flat on the desk. Fine, you will not speak. I will speak for you. He began writing. Marcus stood there cuffed, silent, watching every stroke of the pen. Then, from the evidence cabinet, something slipped loose where the folder had been shoved in too hard. A single cream page slid halfway through the gap, low enough that only Marlene could see it. Her eyes dropped to the exposed line. She stopped breathing. Harlan kept writing, unaware that one word at the bottom of that page had just turned her face white. The cream page stayed caught in the cabinet gap, trembling each time the old air vent kicked on. Marlene saw only the bottom corner at first. Blue City seal, a typed date, a signature line, then one phrase, half exposed beneath the bent folder flap. Effective Monday, 8 a.m. Her hand left the keyboard. Sheriff Wade Harlan kept writing his statement, pen scratching hard enough to tear the paper. Subject refused lawful orders, he muttered. Subject created a disturbance. Subject attempted to intimidate officers. Marcus Ellison stood in front of the intake camera, cuffed and silent. Isaiah watched from behind the glass partition, one hand pressed against it, his face tight with helpless anger. Marlene could not stop looking at the page. She had processed warrants, traffic holds, domestic calls, lost wallets, and drunk college boys for 18 years. She knew what ordinary paperwork looked like. This was not ordinary. Harlan finally noticed her face. What are you staring at? Marlene blinked. Nothing. Nothing does not make you look like that. He followed her eyes to the cabinet. The page was still there, pale against the dark metal. Caleb Monroe stepped back into the hallway, just in time to see it too. His body cam was off now, but his eyes were not. Harlan crossed the room in 3 hard steps and shoved the page back inside with 2 fingers. Evidence stays sealed. Marcus spoke softly. That is not evidence. Harlan turned. It is when I say it is. Marcus looked at the cabinet, then at the camera, then at Marlene's logbook. Property taken during detention must be inventoried in the detainee's presence. The room tightened again. Marlene's lips parted. Caleb looked at the floor. A deputy behind the desk whispered, "How does he know that?" Harlan heard him. Because every troublemaker learns just enough law to waste our time. He yanked the cabinet key from the ring and slipped it into his own shirt pocket. No one touches that folder without me. That should have ended it. But the paper had already done its damage. It had made Marlene afraid of the wrong thing. Not of the man in cuffs. Of the man holding the key. If you're watching this, ask yourself what kind of paper makes a whole police station stop breathing before anyone has even read it. Harlan snapped his fingers at Marlene. Print the statement. Sheriff, she said carefully, the file is still flagged. If this connects to a city matter, county evidence procedure may not apply the same way. Harlan leaned over her desk until she leaned back. I decide what applies. City Hall asked for verification. City Hall can wait. The phone on Marlene's desk rang. Once. Twice. Every I moved to it. The caller ID read, Mayor's office. Harlan reached over and pressed decline before Marlene could move. The ringing died. So did the tiny hope that help might arrive through a wire. Isaiah hit the glass with his palm. Not hard, just enough to make everyone look. You cannot just ignore the mayor. Harlan smiled. Watch me. Marcus turned his head toward Isaiah. His voice stayed even. Do not give him another charge. Harlan pointed his pen at Marcus. You hear that? Giving orders in my station now. Marcus did not answer. He only shifted his weight and looked down at Harlan's chest. At the dark body cam. At the blank little lens that should have been red. Harlan noticed the look and covered the camera with his palm. Too late. Caleb noticed too. Marlene noticed too. The object in the room was no longer just a folder. It was every piece of procedure Harlan had touched and tried to hide. Harlan tore the half-written statement from the pad and slapped it onto the desk. Move him. Two deputies stepped toward Marcus. Holding room. No cameras. No audience. Caleb looked up fast. Sheriff, intake is supposed to stay recorded until processing is complete. Harlan walked to him slowly. You want to join them? Caleb went quiet. The deputies took Marcus by the arms. As they turned him toward the hallway, Marcus passed close to Marlene's desk. For half a second, his eyes dropped to the paper shredder beside her chair. A narrow cream strip was caught in its teeth. Not shredded, torn from the folder when Harlan shoved it in. On it were 3 words Marlene could read clearly. Office of the Mayor. Marcus saw them too. He did not reach for it. He did not smile. He only looked at Marlene and said, Do not throw that away. The hallway fell silent before Harlan understood why. Do not throw that away. Marcus said it so quietly that it should not have stopped anyone. But it did. Marlene's hand froze beside the paper shredder. Caleb turned his head. Even the 2 deputies holding Marcus in the hallway paused for half a breath. Sheriff Wade Harlan looked from Marcus to the cream strip caught in the shredder teeth, then back to Marcus. You do not give orders in my station. Marcus did not blink. I am asking you not to destroy city property. Harlan stepped close enough for Marcus to smell coffee on his breath. Everything in this building belongs to me until I say otherwise. He ripped the strip from the shredder and crushed it in his fist. Marlene flinched as if the paper had made a sound. Marcus watched the words Office of the Mayor disappear inside Harlan's palm, and for the first time that morning, his face changed. Not fear, not anger, pain, the kind that had learned to stand still. The deputies moved him down the hallway into a small holding room with 1 metal bench, 1 bolted table, and a window too narrow to let in daylight. The door shut with a flat click. Isaiah remained behind the glass in booking, separated from him by walls and authority and a sheriff who knew exactly how to make a man feel alone. Marcus sat slowly, the cuffs pulled at his shoulders. In the silence, he could hear another door from another night. A hospital room door, a doctor speaking gently, a plastic bag holding a wallet, a set of keys, and a baseball cap with dirt still on the brim. Andre had been 15, old enough to argue about music, young enough to ask his father to stay in the hallway until he fell asleep. Marcus had kept the boy's photograph behind his license ever since. Not framed, not displayed, hidden in a worn wallet where grief could travel without being explained. A deputy opened the holding room door and tossed the wallet onto the bolted table. Property check, he said. The wallet slid, hit Marcus's cuffed hands, and fell open. Andre's photograph slipped halfway out. The boy's smile faced the ceiling. The deputy saw it. His expression softened for 1 second. Your son. Marcus looked down at the picture. Yes. Where is he now? Marcus did not answer right away. The question hung in the room, innocent and cruel. Finally, he said, he should be older than you. The deputy looked away. That was the micro-hope. A human face where a uniform had been. Then Harlan appeared in the doorway and killed it. Do not get sentimental with suspects. The deputy stepped back. Harlan noticed the photograph and picked up the wallet between 2 fingers. This what you carry for sympathy. Marcus rose to his feet, slow and controlled. Put it down. Harlan smiled. There he is. Marcus's voice did not rise. Put the photo down. For a moment, the room narrowed to the picture in Harlan's hand. Andre in sunlight. Andre before flashing lights. Andre before a report used the word aggressive because it was easier than admitting a child had been afraid. Harlan dropped the wallet onto the table, but kept the photo between his fingers. You people always have a story. Marcus's eyes went colder than shouting. And men like you always edit it. Harlan's smile faded. Behind him, Caleb stood in the hall. He had heard enough to stop pretending. His eyes moved from the photo to Marcus's wrist, where the cuff had rubbed red against the faint old mark left by a hospital bracelet years ago. Something connected in his face. Not the whole truth, just a piece of it. Harlan shoved the photograph back into the wallet and snapped it shut. Bring him out. Caleb frowned. For what? Harlan looked toward booking, where voices were rising near Marlene's desk and the phone had begun ringing again. If City Hall wants answers, they can watch him give them. Marcus lifted his head. Harlan pointed down the hall. Back to intake. Camera on. Everyone present. As the deputies reached for Marcus, Marlene's voice broke through from booking, thin but urgent. Sheriff, the mayor is on the line, and she says she remembers Andre Ellison. Sheriff, the mayor is on the line, and she says she remembers Andre Ellison. The words hit the booking room harder than a slammed door. Marcus stood in the hallway between 2 deputies, wrists still cuffed behind his back. Isaiah lifted his head from behind the glass. Caleb Monroe stopped near the intake desk. Even Harlan froze for one breath. Then the sheriff laughed. Mayor Price remembers everybody when there is a camera nearby. He walked to Marlene's desk and snatched the phone from its cradle. Mayor, this is Sheriff Harlan. I have 2 men in custody for disturbance and obstruction. I am processing them according to county procedure. He listened for half a second, then cut her off. No, ma'am. I do not need a lecture from City Hall. He hung up before she could answer. The click echoed across the room. Marlene stared at the dead phone like it had just become evidence. Harlan turned to the deputies. Bring him out front. Caleb blinked. Front desk. Front desk, Harlan said. If everyone wants a show, we will give them one. They marched Marcus into the public lobby of the station. It was not crowded like Ruthie's, but it was public enough. A mother holding a traffic citation sat under a bulletin board. A teenager in a work uniform waited beside a vending machine. 2 county clerks had come from the records office after hearing raised voices. A delivery driver stood near the door with a stack of envelopes against his chest. Everyone looked up when Marcus entered in cuffs. Harlan stepped behind the front counter like a judge taking a bench. Let the records show, he said loudly. This man refused lawful commands, interfered with detention, and attempted to intimidate officers with fake authority. Isaiah shouted from the booking area, That is not true. Harlan pointed toward the glass. Keep him quiet. A deputy moved in front of Isaiah. The room shifted toward the sheriff. Not because they believed him completely, because he had the badge, the desk, the uniform, the wall of framed commendations behind him. Marcus had cuffs. Marcus had a wrinkled jacket. Marcus had a photograph hidden in a wallet and a folder locked away where no one could read it. Harlan raised his voice. People come into this town thinking rules do not apply to them. He looked at Marcus. Not here. The mother under the bulletin board lowered her eyes. The teenager lifted his phone, then slowly lowered it when Harlan looked his way. Caleb's jaw tightened. Marlene's hand moved toward the phone again, but Harlan saw her. Touch it, and you can explain insubordination in writing. Her hand stopped. False victory settled over the lobby like dust. Harlan had the phone silenced. The folder locked. The camera controlled. The crowd watching. Marcus lifted his head. You still have not stated the original cause. Harlan smiled. I just did. No, Marcus said. You stated the story after the arrest. A clerk whispered, he is right. Harlan snapped his eyes toward her. The whisper died. He leaned over the counter. You are done talking. Marcus did not look away. then your record will have to speak for you. For the first time, a few faces changed. The delivery driver looked from Marcus to Harlan. The teenager lifted his phone again, lower this time, half hidden near his jacket pocket. That was the micro-hope. One small lens, one quiet witness. Then Harlan pointed at the lobby camera mounted above the front door. "Turn that off," Marlene whispered. "Sheriff, that camera is automatic." "Then pull the feed." Caleb took one step forward. "Sir, public lobby footage is archived to the city server." The room went cold. Harlan's eyes narrowed. "Say that again." Caleb's voice weakened, but he finished it. "It backs up outside the county system." Harlan moved toward him. "You have become very talkative today." Caleb fell silent. Harlan turned back to Marcus, his face hard with anger and something close to fear. "Holding room. No lobby. No phone. No visitors. He stays there until I decide what he is." Two deputies took Marcus by the arms again. The lobby watched him being pulled away, and for a moment it seemed Harlan had won everything. Then the delivery driver at the door shifted the envelopes in his arms. One slipped free and hit the floor face up. On the label, printed in bold black letters, were the words, "Office of the Mayor, Personnel Division. Attention, Chief M. Ellison." The teenager's hidden phone caught the whole thing, and Harlan saw the name at the same time everyone else did. The envelope lay on the lobby floor like a lit match. "Office of the Mayor, Personnel Division. Attention, Chief M. Ellison." For one frozen second, no one moved. The teenager's phone stayed low near his jacket, still recording. The delivery driver looked from the label to Marcus, then to Sheriff Wade Harlan. Marlene stood behind the desk with one hand over her mouth. Caleb's eyes narrowed, trying to read the line again before anyone could hide it. Harlan reached the envelope first. He snatched it off the tile and held it up like something dirty. "Nice trick." Marcus said nothing. His wrists were still cuffed behind his back. Isaiah pressed against the glass from booking, seeing the envelope, seeing the sheriff's face change, but still trapped where his voice could not carry. Harlan tore the top corner open with his thumb. Caleb stepped forward. "Sheriff, that is city mail." Harlan turned on him. "It was dropped in my lobby during an act of booking. That does not make it yours." The room held its breath. Harlan smiled, slow and mean. "Deputy Monroe, you are one sentence away from cleaning out your locker." Caleb stopped. False victory returned to Harlan's face. He pulled one sheet halfway from the envelope, saw the city seal, saw a bold letterhead, and shoved it back before the room could read more. "Fake," he announced. "Or stolen." The mother under the bulletin board lowered her head. The county clerks stared at their shoes. The delivery driver whispered. "It came from City Hall." Harlan pointed at him. "You want to be detained too?" The man stepped back. The whisper died. Harlan walked to Marcus, close enough that the envelope brushed against Marcus's chest. "You came here pretending to be somebody." Marcus looked at the envelope, then at Harlan. "You should not damage that." "There it is again," Harlan said to the room. "Orders, threats, fake papers. This is how con men work." Marcus's voice stayed low. "A sealed personnel packet has a chain of custody, and you have a chain on your wrists." A few people flinched. No one laughed. Harlan hated that. He needed the room to choose him. He needed the badge to be louder than the paper. He slapped the envelope down on the front counter and grabbed a trespass form from Marlene's tray. "You are being barred from this station, barred from Ruthie's complaint process, and held until I verify every lie in your pockets." Marlene whispered, "Sheriff, you cannot bar someone from filing a complaint." Harlan did not even look at her. "Watch me." He shoved the form toward Marcus. "Sign." Marcus did not move. "No." "Sign it." "No." Harlan's smile vanished. "Then I will write refused, combative, and non-compliant." Marcus raised his eyes. "Write the truth once. See how it feels." The lobby went silent. The teenager's phone trembled. That was the tiny hope. One sentence had made the room hear itself. Then Harlan slammed his hand on the counter. "Enough. Holding room. No cameras. No calls. No brother. No folder. He disappears until I say he exists." The deputies grabbed Marcus by both arms and turned him toward the hallway. Isaiah shouted his name from behind the glass. Ruthie Mae was not there to speak. The mayor was only a decline call. The folder was locked away. The envelope was under Harlan's palm. Marcus was being pulled out of the public eye, and for the first time it looked like the sheriff had finally buried the truth. Then the lobby doors opened. Cold daylight spilled across the tile. A woman's voice cut through the station, calm and sharp enough to stop every footstep. "Stop. Take your hands off him right now. Stop. Take your hands off him right now." Mayor Evelyn Price stood in the doorway with cold daylight behind her and two city officials at her side. The lobby went quiet so fast the vending machine hum sounded loud. Sheriff Wade Harlan turned with Marcus Ellison still between two deputies, cuffs shining behind his back. Harlan forced a smile, but did not reach his eyes. "Mayor, this is a county matter." Evelyn Price stepped inside. A man in cuffs in a public lobby is everyone's matter. The deputies looked at Harlan for permission. He gave none. Marcus did not pull away. He only stood straighter, as if the weight of the room had settled on him, and he had decided to carry it without bending. Isaiah pressed both hands to the glass in booking. Marlene rose halfway from her chair. Caleb Monroe lowered his eyes, then lifted them again. Something had changed. Not justice yet, not freedom, but the room could feel power entering from a different door. Harlan picked up the mayor's envelope from the counter and waved it like proof of a crime. "This man is carrying questionable city documents. He interfered with my deputies. He refused commands." Evelyn looked at the envelope, then at the locked cabinet behind the desk, then at Harlan's dark body cam. "Where is the intake footage?" Harlan's smile cracked. "We are processing that." "Where is the diner footage?" "Irrelevant." "Where is your body cam recording?" The last question landed hardest. A county clerk covered her mouth. The teenager with the hidden phone lowered it, not out of fear now, but because everyone was already watching. Harlan tapped his badge. "I did not answer interrogations in my own station." Marcus spoke for the first time. "A badge is not a wall." The silence deepened. Harlan turned toward him. "You are done talking." Evelyn stepped closer. "No, sheriff." "You are." 3 words. The lobby seemed to inhale. City Manager Thomas Bell placed a laptop on the front counter. Nora Whitfield, the city attorney, opened a slim black folder and slid one page beneath her hand, keeping the bottom line covered. The blue city seal faced the room. Harlan saw it and went still. "You cannot bring city files into my lobby." Nora's voice was calm. "You brought city business into your lobby when you arrested him." A whisper moved through the clerks. The mother under the bulletin board looked up. The delivery driver took one step back, as if he did not want to block whatever was coming. The whole room was beginning to understand that the sheriff had been speaking loudly because the paper was speaking louder. If you were standing in that station, who would you watch now? The man with the badge, or the document he is suddenly afraid to let anyone read? Evelyn nodded toward Caleb. "Deputy Monroe, is your body cam intact?" Caleb swallowed. Harlan snapped, "Do not answer that." Caleb's hand trembled near his belt. "Yes, ma'am." Harlan's voice sharpened. "Caleb." The young deputy flinched, but did not look away this time. "It recorded at Ruthie's until I was ordered into the hallway." A small sound passed through the lobby. Not a gasp. Worse. Recognition. Harlan moved fast toward the counter. "Turn that laptop off." Nora placed her hand over the keyboard. "Do not touch city equipment. This is fake. Then you should not fear it." Marcus looked at the teenager near the vending machine. The boy slowly raised his phone. On the screen was the envelope falling, the label visible, Harlan's hand snatching it away. Micro Hope had multiplied. One camera had become 2. One witness had become a room. Harlan saw the phone and pointed. "Seize that." No one moved. Not at first. Then one deputy stepped forward. Marcus shifted his body, still cuffed, placing himself between the deputy and the teenager. "He is a minor. Do not make another mistake." Harlan's face flushed. "Move him now." The deputies tightened their grip on Marcus's arms. Evelyn's voice cut through them. "Release the lobby feed to that screen." Marlene turned to her monitor, hand shaking. Harlan lunged toward the desk. Caleb stepped into his path, not touching him, just standing there. The station stopped breathing. Marlene pressed one key. The lobby monitor flickered blue, then black, then filled with a frozen frame from Ruthie's diner. Marcus and Isaiah at the booth, hands visible on the table. Harlan standing over them with his cuffs already out. Evelyn picked up the black folder, uncovered the final line, and held it just below the screen. Before anyone in this room judges these men, she said, watch what your sheriff did first. The frozen frame from Ruthie's diner filled the lobby monitor. Marcus Ellison sat at the booth with both hands flat on the table. Isaiah Brooks sat across from him, coffee untouched. Sheriff Wade Harlan stood over them with his cuffs already open. No shouting, no threat, no disturbance. Just two men eating breakfast and one sheriff deciding they did not belong. The room went silent in stages. First the clerks stopped whispering. Then the teenager lowered his phone. Then even the vending machine seemed too loud. Mayor Evelyn Price nodded to Marlene. Play it. The video began. Harlan's voice came through the speakers. You boys lost. Isaiah's reply was calm. We are eating breakfast. The lobby watched Harlan lean in, watched him demand identification, watched Marcus ask, Am I being detained, Sheriff? Caleb's body cam footage followed, shaky but clear. Harlan ordered it off. Marcus said, Keep it on. Caleb's face turned red as the room heard it. Harlan stepped toward the monitor. That is taken out of context. Nora Whitfield did not blink. Then we will play the whole context. The footage continued. The receipt. The accusation. Ruthie Mae trying to help. Harlan dropping the receipt into water. The cuffs closing on Isaiah. The words that made half the room look down. Welcome to my town. Harlan's face lost color. They were resisting. Marcus stood in the middle of the lobby, still cuffed. His voice was low. You cuffed my brother first. That word moved through the room. Brother. Isaiah closed his eyes behind the glass, as if the truth had touched him from across the station. Evelyn Price picked up the black folder and placed it on the counter. Now the second record. Nora uncovered the final line. The city seal faced the room. The appointment order was printed in bold, clean letters. Marcus A. Ellison, incoming Chief of Police, Briar Falls Police Department. Effective Monday, 8 a.m. No one breathed. The mother under the bulletin board stood up slowly. Caleb stared at Marcus as if seeing him for the first time. Marlene covered her mouth. The delivery driver whispered, Chief. Harlan shook his head. No, that is not real. Thomas Bell opened the laptop and turned it toward the room. The city personnel system loaded. Same name, same date, same position, same digital authorization from the mayor's office. Evelyn looked straight at Harlan. Marcus Ellison is the new chief of police for Briar Falls. He was hired to review misconduct complaints, rebuild public trust, and coordinate with state investigators on patterns of abuse involving this office. Harlan took one step back. The badge on his chest suddenly looked smaller. You set me up. Marcus looked at him, calm and tired. You did that yourself. The words were quiet, but they landed harder than shouting. Harlan pointed toward the screen. He never said who he was. Evelyn's voice sharpened. He did not have to identify himself to deserve the law. The lobby absorbed that. Phones lowered. Eyes lifted. People who had looked away in fear now looked directly at the sheriff. Caleb stepped forward. His voice shook, but it held. Sheriff Harlan ordered me to turn off my body cam. He ordered the folder locked. He ordered the lobby feed pulled. Harlan turned on him. Careful, deputy. Caleb swallowed. I'm being careful now. Nora took the torn cream strip from Marlene, sealed it in a plastic evidence sleeve, and placed it beside the appointment order. We also have damaged city property and interference with public records. Marcus looked toward the glass. Release Isaiah. No one moved until Evelyn said, now. A deputy hurried to the booking door and unlocked it. Isaiah stepped out, rubbing his wrists, eyes fixed on his brother. Marcus did not smile. Not yet. The room was still holding too much pain for that. Harlan stood alone behind the counter he had used like a throne. Evelyn picked up his half-written statement and laid it beside the diner footage transcript. Sheriff, she said, before state investigators arrive, explain why your report begins after the cuffs were already on. Sheriff, Mayor Evelyn Price said, before state investigators arrive, explain why your report begins after the cuffs were already on. Wade Harlan stared at the half-written statement on the counter as if the paper had betrayed him. The lobby waited. No one coughed. No one shifted. The screen still showed the diner footage frozen on the moment his hand closed around Isaiah's wrist. Beside it lay the appointment order, the torn cream strip from the folder, the mayor's envelope, and Marlene's logbook with the blank detention time staring up like an open wound. Harlan swallowed. This is being blown out of proportion. Evelyn did not blink. Answer the question. They were hostile. Nora Whitfield tapped the transcript. The video shows them seated. They refused commands. Kayla Monroe stepped forward. You gave commands before stating a cause. Harlan turned on him. You want to ruin your career for strangers? Caleb looked at Marcus, then at Isaiah, then at the badge on Harlan's chest. No, sir. I want to stop ruining other people's lives for yours. The lobby went still. That sentence broke something loose. The mother under the bulletin board let out the breath she had been holding. The delivery driver lowered his head. One county clerk wiped her eyes. Harlan looked around for someone to stand with him, but every face had moved away. The badge that once made people look down now made them stare. Evelyn opened a second folder. Sheriff Wade Harlan, effective immediately, you are suspended from all cooperative operations with the city of Briar Falls pending state review. Your access to city systems is revoked. Your involvement in this detention is now part of an active misconduct inquiry. Harlan's voice cracked. You do not have authority over my badge. Thomas Bell stepped beside her. No, but the county administrator is on the line with state internal affairs, and they do. Marlene placed the phone on speaker. A man's voice came through, flat and official. Sheriff Harlan, surrender your service weapon and badge to Deputy Monroe until state investigators arrive. Harlan stared at the phone. This is a mistake. Marcus finally spoke. No, the mistake was thinking nobody you cuffed would ever be heard. Harlan looked at him, then really looked, and for the first time Marcus was not a suspect in his eyes. He was consequence. Harlan reached slowly for his badge. His hand shook as he unclipped it. The metal hit the counter with a dull sound, smaller than everyone expected. Then came his service weapon, placed carefully beside it. No drama, no force, just authority leaving the body of a man who had abused it. Isaiah rubbed the red marks on his wrists. Marcus saw them and turned to Evelyn. His charges first. Evelyn nodded. Nora took the booking form, drew one clean line through the false charges, and wrote, voided due to unlawful detention. Marlene entered the correction into the system. The monitor refreshed. Isaiah Brooks, released. Marcus Ellison, released. The words were simple, but Isaiah closed his eyes like he had been waiting years to see something so small become so large. Harlan tried once more. I was protecting this town. Ruthie Mae's voice answered from the lobby doors. She had arrived quietly, apron still on, hands trembling but eyes clear. No, Guade. You taught it to be afraid. Behind her stood the little boy from the diner, holding Marcus's leather folder with both hands. He dropped this, the boy said. Marcus knelt, as much as the stiffness in his shoulders allowed, and took it from him gently. Thank you. The boy looked at the badge on the counter, then at Marcus. Are you going to make it better? The room heard the question, not as accusation, as hope. Marcus held the folder against his chest, the old photograph of Andre still inside his wallet, the appointment order now in the open. He looked at Isaiah, at Caleb, and Marlene, at Ruthie Mae, at the people who had looked away and were now learning how to look back. I cannot fix a town in one day, he said, but I can start with the truth. Evelyn stepped aside and opened the door to the conference room where the state investigators were waiting on a video call. Then come in, Chief Ellison, she said softly. Marcus looked down at Harlan's badge on the counter, then toward the boy still watching him like tomorrow might be different. Marcus looked down at Harlan's badge on the counter, then toward the boy still watching him like tomorrow might be different. For a long moment, no one spoke. The conference room door stood open. Inside, state investigators waited on the screen, but Marcus did not move toward power first. He turned toward the child. What is your name? The boy held his mother's hand tighter. Eli. Marcus lowered himself to one knee, the leather folder resting against his chest. Eli, A badge should never make you afraid to eat breakfast. The boy looked at the badge on the counter, then back at Marcus. Was he wrong? Marcus nodded once. Yes. And now the record will say so. That was the first thing Marcus changed. Not a speech. Not a headline. A record. Marlene reopened the booking file with shaking hands and entered the correction in full. Unlawful detention. No probable cause stated. Charges voided. Property returned. Witness footage preserved. When the printer released the page, Marcus signed only after Isaiah's name was cleared too. Both of us, he said. Not just me. Isaiah looked at him, eyes wet but steady. You still protecting everybody. Marcus glanced at the worn wallet in his hand, where Andre's photograph rested safely again. I learned from the best. Ruthie Mae stepped forward with the water-stained receipt from the diner, the one Harlan had tried to drown. The ink had blurred, but the time was still visible. The table number was still visible. 2 breakfasts. Paid. She handed it to Marcus like it was more than paper. I should have spoken louder. Marcus took it gently. You spoke today. Her chin trembled. Too late. No, Marcus said. Late is not the same as never. Caleb Monroe placed his own body cam on the counter beside Harlan's badge. His hand shook. I want to give a full statement. Marcus looked at the young deputy for a long second. Then give the truth. All of it. Even the parts that make you look small. Caleb swallowed. Yes, sir. Mayor Evelyn Price watched quietly as the room changed around Marcus. People who had lowered their eyes now lifted them. The teenager deleted nothing from his phone, but he stopped filming when Marcus looked his way. Not out of fear, out of respect. Harlan stood near the wall, silent now, stripped of the voice that had filled the room all morning. No one asked Marcus to humiliate him. Marcus did not. The badge had already said enough by lying flat on the counter. The following Monday, Marcus refused the auditorium at City Hall. He asked for Ruthie's Diner. At 8 in the morning, the same bell over the door rang, but this time no one went quiet from fear. Ruthie had placed a small vase of yellow flowers on the booth where Marcus and Isaiah had been cuffed. Eli sat with his mother near the counter. Caleb stood in the back, out of uniform, pending review, ready to testify. Marlene brought the corrected report in a plain folder. Isaiah carried Andre's old baseball cap in both hands. He should be here, Isaiah said. Marcus touched the brim. He is why I am. Mayor Price introduced him simply. Marcus Ellison, Chief of Police. No one laughed. No one whispered. The room stood. Marcus did not speak long. He announced an independent complaint line, mandatory active body cams, public review of closed misconduct files, and community training led inside the places people actually lived. Diners, churches, schools, barbershops, and front porches. Then he did something no one expected. He called Eli forward and handed him the water-stained receipt, now sealed in a clear sleeve. This is not trash, Marcus said. It is proof that ordinary people deserve the truth written down. Eli held it carefully, like a certificate. Ruthie wiped her eyes with her apron. Marcus placed Andre's photograph inside the leather folder beside the appointment order, not hidden anymore. Then he opened the diner door for the next customer, an elderly man in paint-stained work clothes who paused, as if unsure he belonged. Marcus smiled and stepped aside. Come in, sir. You are welcome here. The old man walked in with his head a little higher. Sunlight spilled across the tile. Coffee poured. Forks touched plates. The badge on Marcus's chest caught the morning light, not as a warning, but as a promise. And for the first time in a long time, Briar Falls sounded like a town learning how to breathe without fear.